Yo, 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 yo. Yo, 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 yo. Give me 1 second. I gotta set stuff up. I didn't want to be late, especially after dropping on a stream yesterday. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Barky DJ. Good morning, Adam. Test on the closed caption. We are good to go. That over there, put that over there. Shooting vax from the rooftops. Pew, pew, dark gang. Oh, all right. We are accomplishing goals. We are up and around and awake. Shooting vax from the rooftops. Pew, pew, dark gang. Okay. No. Shooting vax from the rooftops. Pew, pew, dart gang. There we go. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is AMAI, and I am your host, Glovis the Elder. And as per usual, we are looking at a whole bunch of interesting AI, tech, and other news related. So, DVD is back, baby. Meet the Super DVD. Scientists develop massive 1 petabit optical disc. Kiss your storage woes behind as they're thanks to a new technique that houses data in 3D. There's good news if you're running out of space in your Google account. Researchers from scientists from the University of Shanghai for Science and Technology. Y'all don't understand how tough it is to do live readings of these articles and run into these proofreading errors. Researchers from the University of Shanghai for Science and Technology just figured out how to fit up to a petabit of data onto an optical disc by storing information in 3D. In other words, that's 125,000 gigabytes on a single DVD sized disc, or what experts refer to as a big boy. I remember talks of holographic memory in a cube of crystal with crazy density, and that was in the 90s. Yeah, no, crystals, like, because there was that adjacent ancient aliens talk where, like, the crystal skulls and stuff like that were alien storage devices, and yeah. Optical discs like DVDs and Blu-rays are cheap and durable but can't hold much data. Until now, optical discs store data in a single layer of information that's read by a laser. Well, you can kiss those puny discs goodbye thanks to a new technique that can read and write up to 100 layers of data in the space of just 54 nanometers, as described in a new paper published in the journal Nature. I thought when I first saw the headline, there was a in like the late 70s, early 80s, there was the optical disc. It was like a giant DVD player. Um and the discs for it were like the size of a record. And those still exist. Like, people have them, the old ones, but like, I believe I also heard from a friend of mine they were making a comeback. I don't know. It's not really my thing. My uncle had one, and and they weren't very successful because of the size of the discs. Made it like it would like put like a bend to them. Like it wasn't. It was like almost their technology. But this is apparently just the size of a regular CD DVD, you know? This could greatly reduce the footprint as well as the energy consumption of the future's big data centers, providing a sustainable solution for the digital economy. In terms of volume, that's dramatically more capacity than you can get with a flash drive or even a hybrid hard drive. Put that into perspective, a single optical disc is about 1.2 millimeters high. An array of HDD drives that could fit a petabit of data would be about 200 centimeters high. An equivalent array of Blu ray storage would be over 2 meters high. The technique required the researchers to develop a brand new material, which has the easy to remember name dye doped photoresist with aggregation induced emission luminogens, or AIEDDPR if you're in a hurry. It's a highly uniform and transparent film. Lets researchers blast it with lasers at the nanoparticle scale with precision, allowing for an unprecedented storage method. That is a question, right? I assume some data is going to be stable, right? Like the internet, you know, um, like training data. You know, you train your model on Wikipedia. You could download Wikipedia onto this storage, or like any large enough data set. I could see, because you're not going to um necessarily need to edit any of the information that's on there. You're going to just want to add to it. You know what I mean? Um, Movies, music, books. I would say yes. I would say yes. There is a need. Um, yeah, it's not a single solution for everything, but there's a need. All right, 1 month with Microsoft AI's vision of the future, Copilot Pro. Copilot Pro launched last month as a $20 monthly subscription, um, alongside priority access to the latest OpenAI models and improved image generation. Also in there is, in addition to ChatGPT Plus, you have the new Gemini. Let's see what they have to say. I've been testing Copilot Pro over the past month to see if it's worth the $20 subscription for my daily needs, and just how good or bad the AI image and text generation is across Office apps like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Some of the Copilot Pro features are a little disappointing right now, whereas others are truly useful improvements that I'm not sure I want to live without. One of the main draws of subscribing to Copilot Pro is an improved version of Designer, Microsoft's image creation tool. Designer uses DALL-E 3 to generate content, and paid Copilot Pro creates widescreen images with far more detail than the free version. I've been using Designer to experiment with images. I've found it particularly impressive when you feed it as much detail as possible. Asking Designer for an image of a dachshund sitting by a window staring at a slice of bacon generates some good examples, but you can get Designer to do much more with some additional prompting. Adding in more descriptive language to generate a hyper-real painting with natural lighting, medium shot, and shallow depth of field will greatly improve image results. As you can see in the two examples below, Designer gets the natural lighting correct with some depth of field around the bacon. Unfortunately, there are multiple slices of bacon here instead of just one, and they are giant pieces of bacon. And I would say in this image, it's not actually staring at the bacon, it's staring out the window. This one is staring at the bacon. Though I don't know that either of these images are particularly useful. Like most things involving AI, the Designer feature isn't perfect. I generated another separate image of a dog staring at bacon, and a giant piece of bacon was randomly inserted. Did a good job of illustrated image of a UPS delivery man from 1910 in the style of early Japanese cartoons. Though adding the UPS logo in, even if it's a little wonky, Copilot Pro lets you generate 100 images per day. Does so faster than the free version. Yeah, because the dogs are looking for you, right? Like you to come home, or you know, dog wants to go outside. Or go outside? You want to go outside? Copilot Pro isn't all about image generation. The subscription unlocks the AI capabilities inside Office apps, inside Word. You can use Copilot to generate text, which can be helpful at getting an outline of a document started or refining paragraphs. You have numerical data. Good morning, Double Triple. You can also get Copilot to visualize his data as a graph or a table, which is particularly useful for making text heavy documents a little easier to read. If you highlight text, a little Copilot logo appears to nudge you into selecting it to rewrite that text or visualize it. Clippy returns. If you select an entire paragraph, Copilot will try to rewrite it with different options you can cycle through and pick. Like the image generation, the paragraph rewriting could be a little hit or miss, introducing different meaning to sentences by swapping out words. Overall, I didn't find that it improved my writing. For someone who doesn't write regularly, it might be a lot more useful. Copilot in Outlook has been super useful to me personally. I use it every day to check summaries of emails, which hopefully appear at the top of emails. This might even tempt me to buy Copilot Pro just for this feature because it saves me so much time when I'm planning a project with multiple people. It's also really helpful when you have a long running email thread to get a quick summary of all the key information. You can also use Copilot in Outlook to generate emails or craft replies. Much like Word, there's a rewrite tool here that lets you write a draft email that's then analyzed to produce suggestions for improving the tone or clarity of an email. Copilot in PowerPoint is equally useful if you're not used to creating presentations. You can ask it to generate slides in a particular style. You'll get an entire deck within seconds. Designer is part of this feature, so you can dig into each individual slide, modify the images or text. Someone who hates creating presentations, this is something I will absolutely use in the future. Certainly beats the PowerPoint templates you can find online. I did run into some PowerPoint slide generation issues, though, particularly where Copilot would sit there saying, still working on it, and not finish generating the slides. Copilot in Excel seems to be the most limited part of the Copilot Pro experience. You need your data neatly arranged in a table, otherwise Copilot will want to convert it. Once you have the data that works with Copilot, you can create visualizations, use data insights to create pivot tables, or even get formula suggestions. Copilot for Excel is still in preview, so I'd expect we'll see even more functionality here over time. Final example of Copilot inside Office apps is OneNote. Much like Word, you can draft notes or plans here and easily rewrite text. Copilot also offers standard or summaries of your notes, which can be particularly amusing if you attempt to summarize shorthand notes or incomplete notes that only make sense to your brain. Fair enough. And then they have GPTs. They're essentially individual assistants inside Copilot that can help you find recipes, plan out vacation itinerary, or create a personalized workout plan. Copilot Pro subscribers will be able to build their own custom GPTs around specific topics. Overall, I think Copilot Pro is a good start for Microsoft consumer AI efforts. I'm not sure that I'd pay $20 a month just yet. The image generation improvements are solid here and might be worth $20 a month for some. Fair enough. I like that. It wasn't a sales pitch. Sometimes reviews can come across as, "Oh yeah, this is awesome and you should get it." And that one seemed very honest and very much like they used it. From Politico, Democrats pushed climate action, then utility bills skyrocketed. California Democrats proudly authored nation-leading clean energy goals that forced the automobile industry to go electric and shape global climate policy. Then the bill came due. There's intensifying political pressure on state lawmakers to do something about utility bills that have shot up by as much as 127% over the last decade. climate spending, from wildfire prevention to building out transmission capacity and paying for renewables, is partly to blame. Californians are fed up, said Democratic State Assembly member Mark Berman at a recent news conference in Sacramento. My constituents are pissed off. I know because they told me over and over again at every community coffee that I had in the fall and in the winter. Their rates keep going up. Lawmakers there and in other Democratic states with nation-leading climate objectives like New York and Massachusetts are scrambling to make their transition from fossil fuels affordable before they face an all-out tax ratepayer revolt. The problem is more pressing in an election year when Republicans say Democrats don't pay enough attention to Californians' abilities to afford the high cost of daily life. In California, the latest flashpoint is a proposal to restructure utility bills to make them more like the state's progressive tax system, where the wealthy pay the most. Nearly every Democratic state lawmaker voted for the proposal 2 years ago, but now at least 20 are supporting legislation to repeal it, citing its potential impacts on middle and high-income households. Okay. New York lawmakers are also raising concerns about rising utility rates driven by investments in maintaining the gas system and upgrading the grid to accommodate new renewables and increasing electrification. Last year's state budget in New York included $200 million to assist households with utility bills. Some Democratic lawmakers are also pushing a measure this session to enshrine into law the state's policy goal of capping utility costs at 6% of income for struggling households. How lawmakers and energy officials parcel out costs could determine how far transition plans get. Pressing California aiming for 60% renewables by 2030 and New York pursuing 70% by then. Absolutely, high rates can threaten the energy transition, and we should be very concerned. The energy transition depends on public support, and we have to do whatever we can to maintain that public support. That means doing it in the least cost manner. Whee! So yeah, we shall see. California Electricity Consumer Group, the utility reform network, is shopping around a proposal to cap utility bill increases at the rate of inflation, which would significantly reduce the utility's ability to make upfront infrastructure investments. The average Californians lawmakers are hearing from don't know all that, and they're frustrated. They don't care where it comes from, how we got it. It's, can I afford it? And ratepayers, especially working class people, are paying for most of these aspirational projects that, like you say, are way down the line. And we haven't even proven that they're going to pan out or hit our environmental goals. I don't know, man. When you put taxpayers and other members of the working class as a pivot point in your infrastructure project, there's going to be tremendous pressure to not come through on it because bill go up. Axios interview. Illinois governor adds $500 million to quantum computing quest. The proposal is part of a sweeping quest to remake the state as a hub for the future of semiconductors, quantum, and AI. Pritzker tells Axios that he's carving out $200 million for a cryogenic facility needed to keep quantum computing systems cool, as well as $100 million for the development of quantum campus site and $200 million in matching funds. We already were establishing ourselves as a leading hub for quantum development. Now we have the opportunity to take it a big step further. The investment would complement Illinois' bid to secure the headquarters of the National Semiconductor Technology Center. An R&D accelerator the Biden administration is establishing as part of the $280 billion CHIPS Act. The state is hoping that its combination of national labs, it's home to Fermi and Argonne federal labs, as well as the University of Chicago, the University of Illinois, the Interdisciplinary Chicago Quantum Exchange, and other private resources will give it a leg up in the race for NSTC. Making sure that we're making the right investments early and demonstrating our commitment to that is confidence building among private industry and the federal government. And then again, just look at that in parallel with this previous article, right? I mean, electrification is important. It's a big deal. You need the money. We've got money for this. We don't have money for that kind of thing. I read something recently about the errors in quantum computers being attributed to cosmic ray strikes. I don't know how to work around this. That's fair. There's a... Look, I'm not sure if that... Again, I'm no expert on quantum. That is a whole thing in and of itself. But... I'm not sure if the noise reduction elements that they're working on would assist with that. Because the idea of cosmic ray shielding... Good morning, Reid. Cosmic ray shielding the quantum computer doesn't sound particularly practical, if possible, right? National security watchdogs say that the U.S. is in a race with China and other global competitors to lead in the development of quantum computing and semiconductors, which are viewed as critical to the future AI-driven economy. It's really the governor putting a marker out there and saying he wants Illinois to be a leader and the United States to be a leader in this burgeoning field. Silicon Valley, a region synonymous with computing, can't be ruled out as a winner of the NTSC and as a hub for the future of quantum. And again, we have competition within these states, right? As opposed to coordination. In Waymo's news, Waymo's application to expand California robotaxi operations paused by regulators. Waymo's application to expand its robotaxi service in Los Angeles and San Mateo counties has been suspended for 120 days by the California Public Utilities Commission's Consumer Protection Enforcement Division. The CPUCCPED. Good job. The decision doesn't change Waymo's ability to commercially operate driverless vehicles in San Francisco. However, it does put an abrupt halt to the company's aspirations to expand where it can operate, at least until June 2024. The CPED said on its website that the application has been suspended for further staff review. The suspension of an advice letter is a procedural part of the CPUC's standard and robust review process, according to Waymo. Since Waymo has stalled any meaningful discussion on its expansion into Silicon Valley, the CPUC has put the brakes on its application to test robotaxi service virtually unfettered in both San Mateo and Los Angeles counties. This will provide the opportunity to fully engage the autonomous vehicle maker in our very real 2024. Did I say 2034? It's June of 2024. This will provide the opportunity to fully engage the autonomous vehicle maker on our, I could have misspoke, on our very real public safety concerns that have caused all kinds of dangerous situations for firefighters and police in neighboring San Francisco. Unless you actually learn about the stories and then you understand that shenanigans are the driver of your very real public safety concerns. What do we got next? China's rush to dominate AI comes with a twist. It depends on U.S. technology. China's tech firms were caught off guard by breakthroughs in generative artificial intelligence. Beijing's regulations and a sagging economy aren't helping, allegedly. We shall see. Sagging by traditional standards. In November, a year after ChatGPT's release, a relatively unknown Chinese startup leaped to the top of the leaderboard that judged the abilities of open source artificial intelligence systems. The Chinese firm, 01.ai, was only 8 months old, but had deep-pocketed backers and a $1 billion valuation, and was founded by a well-known investor and technologist, Kai-Fu Lee. Kai-Fu Lee wrote a couple books on AI and chips. I haven't read any of them yet, but they are on my list. In interviews, Mr. Lee presented his AI system as an alternative to options like Llama. There was just one twist. Some of the technology in O1.ai systems came from Llama. Mr. Lee's startup then built on Meta's technology, training its system with new data to make it more powerful. The situation is emblematic of a reality that many in China openly admit. Even as the country races to build generative AI, Chinese companies are relying almost entirely on underlying systems from the United States. China now lags the United States in generative AI by at least a year and may be falling further behind. Now, there's another point of view on this. That I read a few months ago in an article is that generative AI, in the way that it's being utilized in the United States, with a heavy push towards like these image generators and more consumer facing models and entities are just not the priority for China, and that their priorities lie in different areas. Now that could have a different effect on what, um, yeah, on the China lagging behind, right? Like your mileage may vary in that regard. China now lags the U.S. China now lags the U.S. in generative AI by at least a year and may be falling further behind, according to more than a dozen tech industry insiders and leading engineers, setting the stage for a new phase in the cutthroat technological competition between the two nations that some have likened to a Cold War. Chinese companies are under tremendous pressure to keep abreast of U.S. innovation, said Chris Nicholson, an investor with a venture capital firm. The release of ChatGPT was yet another Sputnik moment that China felt it had to respond to. Jenny Zhao, a partner at Leonis Capital, an investment firm that focuses on AI, said the AI models that Chinese companies build from scratch aren't very good, leading to many Chinese firms often using the fine-tuned versions of Western models. The estimated China was 2 to 3 years behind the United States in generative AI developments. As Chinese firms aim to catch up by turning to open source AI models from the United States, Washington is in a difficult spot, even as the United States has tried to slow China's advancements by limiting the sale of microchips and curbing investment. It has not held back the practice of openly releasing software to encourage its adoption. For China, the newfound reliance on AI systems from the United States, primarily Llama, has fueled deeper questions about the country's innovation model, which recent decades surprised many by turning out world-beating firms like Alibaba and ByteDance, despite Beijing's authoritarian controls. When Chinese companies are leveraging American excuse me, open source technologies to play catch up, the questions become very complicated, wrapped up in issues of national security and geopolitics. AI has long been a priority in China. After the AI tool AlphaGo defeated two top players of the board game Go in 2016-2017, Chinese policymakers set out an ambitious plan to lead the world in technology by 2030. The government pledged billions to researchers and companies focused on AI. U.S. has always led in AI, saying China lags behind is disingenuous when they're catching up fast. Yes, yes. And again, and it's right here. The government pledged billions to researchers and companies focused on AI. Now, the United States does have the CHIPS Act, but even that is taking a long time to get money in anyone's hands and develop the infrastructure involved, right? The development of, again, it's not enough to build a chip fab, right? You also have to build all of the things that let a chip fab do what it does, right? You have to expand and possibly renovate your power grid. You have to have um, trained employees to work there. You need the resources to actually manufacture the chips. You need the machines that create that do the lithography. of which there is a bottleneck right there, is only one company does that. There's all of these things that by the nature of competition versus cooperation, we are limiting the amount of this stuff that can exist. When OpenAI released ChatGPT in November 2022, many Chinese firms were being hamstrung by a regulatory crackdown from Beijing that discouraged experimentation without government approval. Chinese tech companies were also burdened by censorship rules designed to manage public opinion and mute major oppositions to the Chinese Communist Party. And this is not to say that everything that China does is good. All states are bastards. There are many ways to parse this depending on your opinion of the Chinese government, but functionally this is an accurate sentence, right? The For better or worse, the Chinese government controls its internet differently than the United States does. They have the Great Firewall that prevents some information from getting in and out. There's also like their version of TikTok is different from the American version of TikTok, for better and worse, right? Like, there are good and bad things about TikTok. It is not one size fits all. Chinese companies with the resources to build generative AI model face a dilemma. If they create a chatbot that said the wrong thing, its makers would pay the price. And no one could be sure what might tumble out of a chatbot's digital mouth. Just not possible to get rid of all the problematic ways these systems can express themselves. Chinese tech giants are also grappling with new regulations that dictate how AI models could be trained. The rules limit the data sets that could be used to train the AI models and the applications that were acceptable. Also set requirements for registering AI models with the government. It's both more difficult and more risky to innovate in generative AI in the current regulatory regime, says a hedge fund manager. Tech investors in China have also pushed for quick turnarounds from AI. The repeated problem of quick ROI versus long term investing is not just a United States problem, which has meant money has flowed to easy to execute applications instead of more ambitious goals focused on fundamental research. As much as 50% of China's AI investment has gone into computer vision technology, which is required for surveillance, instead of building foundation models for generative AI. Now, Baidu, Alibaba, the dairy company Mengniu, probably pronouncing that wrong, and the tutoring firm TAL Education have all jumped into the generative AI race in China, leading Chinese media to coin the phrase the battle of 100 models to describe the frenzy. Some have criticized the free for all as publicity stunts that add unnecessary competition. In a panel discussion last year, Robin Li, Baidu's chief executive, described having hundreds of basic AI models as a waste. I would agree. there's a point, right? More innovation, more options, more competition has a place, and it is good to a point. And then once you reach that point, now like there needs to be more coordination, less repeating of the same stuff. And the the waste of resources that are done in an overly competitive environment. What's next? NASA faces a quandary with its audacious lunar cargo program. Failure is now an option at the U.S. Space Agency. Most of NASA is a pretty buttoned-down place these days. Nearly 70 years old, the space agency is no longer the rambunctious adolescent it was during the race to the moon in the 1960s. If you go to a NASA field center today, you're more likely to get dragged into a meeting or a review than witness a rocket engine test. One way to describe the space agency today is risk averse. Some of this certainly is understandable. NASA is where Flight Director Gene Kranz famously said during the Apollo 13 rescue, failure is not an option. Moreover, after 3 major accidents that resulted in the deaths of 17 astronauts, Apollo 1 and Space Shuttles Challenger and Columbia, NASA takes every conceivable precaution to avoid similar tragedies in the future. But there does come a point where NASA becomes so risk averse that it no longer takes bold and giant steps, succumbing to paralysis by analysis. As one long time NASA engineer told me several years ago, only partly tongue in cheek, it took a minor miracle for engineers designing the Orion spacecraft to get a small window on the vehicle through the rigorous safety review process. Happily, however, there are still corners of the space agency where the mad scientists are free to play. One of these is in the Science Directorate of NASA, where about 7 years ago, a handful of scientists and engineers were trying to figure out a way to get some experiments to the moon without busting their limited budget. Flying a phalanx of such missions the old way would have cost billions of dollars. They didn't have that kind of money, nor all the time in the world. These scientists, including the leader of the directorate, Thomas Zurbuchen, knew that the moon was about to become a red-hot target for exploration. NASA's mantra is test, 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 launch. SpaceX is test, launch, test, launch. And I mean, I will give this to SpaceX is that they are prolific with their vehicle launches at this time. And I think they're doing fairly well. I know people like to meme on the the Elon Musk big rocket go boom, but the smaller rockets are being launched fairly often, if I have that correct. I could be wrong, but I believe that to be the case. Smaller satellite launching rockets are going up more often. For decades after Apollo, NASA has basically ignored the moon. It was, as Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin. That's what I thought, almost daily. Yeah, these are two separate things. Musk is just the face. SpaceX is the people doing the work, right? Magnificent but desolate. The space agency turned its robotic exploration efforts to Mars and beyond, and its human program remained in low Earth orbit. Something I saw a meme that the last time that all of the human race was on the earth was November 2nd of 2000, and since that point there's always been someone at the ISS. There's always been someone in space. It's a really neat idea. By the mid 2010s, Zurbuchen and other scientists were increasingly convinced that there were deposits of water ice at the lunar poles in permanently shadowed craters. Moreover, NASA's human exploration program was finally getting serious about going back into deep space, and it was clear that the moon would be the first stop. Finally, and there was a sense of urgency as China started to land rovers on the moon and set out plans to build a lunar base near the South Pole. So NASA scientists knew they wanted to get experiments, rovers, and other things to the moon. Nothing too massive, mostly payloads from a few dozen to a few hundred kilograms to reassess the lunar surface and determine what resources there were there, and how we might get at them. The idea was to do cool science, but also prepare the way and support human activity on the moon. But NASA's science division didn't have billions of dollars to throw at a lunar program like the Human Exploration Division. So Zurbuchen and his team faced a choice. They could save up for a handful of big, expensive missions flown by traditional contractors, or they could try something new. The commercial space industry, spurred in part by Google Lunar X Prize that was never won, was starting to make some noise about developing small lunar landers. Could NASA provide some incentives for a few of these companies to finish their landers and deliver experiments to the moon? The cost of a few $100 million a year, such a commercial plan made some sense. But there were risks. Getting into space was hard enough. Actually landing on the moon, that's very hard. A lander must be powered all the way down to the surface since there's no atmosphere for braking, and due to a lag in communications, it must be done autonomously. And, uh-oh. Is it my app or am I effing? I think it was just my app. Okay, cool. You weren't here yesterday, Reed, when my whole internet went to shit, which prematurely ended stream. It was less than ideal, suboptimal. Oh, you were here. Okay, I don't know. One stream blends into another, homie. So yeah, we went from Houston, we have a problem. To I was just gone. This is Astrobotics Peregrine lander before launch on ULA's Vulcan rocket. CLIPS. Most Americans have never heard of the Commercial Lunar Payload Service Program. It's a clunky name, so space nerds generally refer to it by CLIPS. But that's starting to change now. The companies are putting their landers into space. NASA first asked the industry who would be interested in bidding on moon missions in 2018, year later, the space agency announced its first awardees. A Pittsburgh-based startup, Astrobotic, won $79 million. Houston-based Intuitive Machines won $77 billion, and Orbit Beyond won $97 million. Launches were intended to occur by 2020. But pretty quickly, it became clear that the companies wouldn't make that deadline. While they made credible technical progress, they also had setbacks. Astrobotic had propulsion problems. Intuitive Machines accidentally blew up a propellant tank during testing. And in 2020, Orbit Beyond waved the red flag and dropped out of its contract award, saying it could not complete the task. The pandemic compounded each company's woes, slowing down work and impacting the aerospace industry supply chain. It's hard to land stuff on the moon. The moon is far away. If I haven't been clear until now, let me be so before continuing. I think CLIPS is a daring program, exactly the type of risk taking that NASA should be following in non critical missions outside of human spaceflight. If CLIPS works, in a few years, the space agency will have laid the foundation for a highway to the moon. U.S. companies could provide rapid, regular transport to the moon for pennies on the dollar of what the agency would have been charged for a highly specialized one-off mission in the past. In short, if we're ever to expand the sphere of human activity to the moon, we really need programs like CLIPS to succeed. For that reason, I and many other people who dream of a vibrant future for humanity in space are rooting like hell for success. At the same time, many of us worry about whether it will survive. First of all, Astrobotic's failure is concerning. If Intuitive Machines also fails, it's not difficult to envision key members of Congress asking why NASA is spending all this money on commercial landers. To date, NASA has 8 CLIPS missions on contract with various providers: Astrobotic, Intuitive Machines, Draper Laboratory, and Firefly Aerospace. And China's catching up fast, exactly. The total value is more than $1 billion. And I know, like, the NASA space nerds, they don't want to hear any of that, right? Like, they just want to do space nerd stuff. But I can imagine it would be easier to get that money from Congress, especially certain members of Congress, if you played the like Space Race 2 card against the Chinese Communist Party, you know? And like I'm not going to say that the cost is negligible in the grand scheme of things. I'm saying that the cost is negligible in comparison to the budget. NASA funding is so small that it's just how we roll about what we want to try to accomplish. And then it changes from budget to budget. We do this every year. We have no long term plans in this country. We're, the infrastructure is a mess and will continue to be so. It's a hodgepodge because of local municipalities being responsible for infrastructure investment. It's just. I don't know, man. Let's see what IEEE has to say about AR goggles for a minute. 3D chip tech is key to Meta's AR goals. prototype chip gains huge performance boost from wafer to wafer bonding. Yeah, I want nifty glasses. Morning bipedal meatbag. It always comes back to capitalism being the problem. Capitalism is a problem, but it's the competitional aspect, which extend like the Venn diagram is a crossover, right? Like because our competition with China, China's competition with us, Russia's competition with us, and vice versa. All these different political entities around the world competing with each other rather than pooling their resources and each doing what they may be particularly good at any point in time. That is the issue, ultimately. You know, and don't get me wrong, capitalism does play into that, but there are other elements like that are, you know, very short-sighted and parochial. That there are many constraints to the design of augmented reality systems, not the least of which is that you have to look presentable when you're walking around. That's fair. You can't have a shoebox on your face all the time. An AR system must also be lightweight. Now, personally, like when people were memeing, and they probably still are, on people wearing the Vision Pro while being outside, and whether it's on the subway and you're typing, or the dude who's walking across the street. The dude who was walking across the street, I don't know if you've seen this, but a dude is walking across a crosswalk, and he's like waving his hand around occasionally to control stuff within the thing. If you actually pay attention to what's going on, he appears to be completely aware of his environment. He is not, when he does stop in the crosswalk, he's not stopping in traffic. There's a series of cones, and he is within the space where the cars cannot drive. And he's only taking a second to do the thing and whatever. Now, you can feel however you want to feel about people walking around with this tech on their face in public, but that's the whole point, right? Is that I can go and I'm not bound. Good morning, Aswart. I'm not bound by any particular location in which to accomplish my tasks. As nice as it is to talk about work from home as opposed to work from office, um, wouldn't work from the park be even better? Right? You can go to the beach with your stuff, work at the beach. Doesn't that sound lovely? If you're into outside, and I kind of am, you know. Definitely no. Fair enough. To each their own. The air systems must also be lightweight and can't throw off a lot of heat. And it needs to be miserly with power because nobody wants to have to recharge wearable electronics every couple of hours. Eh, I think there's a nice balance there, right? Like, because like if you they don't do this anymore. I don't think, but in video games you used to get a book, right? The manual for the game that told you how to play and all that other stuff. And then somewhere in that book it told you that like every 45 minutes you should take a break for about 15 minutes, and none of us do that, right? Like, and it just kind of stopped appearing, you know, as a thing, but it's still true. Like we spend way too much time in front of the computer here. Um, but like if I use my device and then I have to take it off to recharge it for, you know, let's say I wear it for 2 hours and then I have to recharge it for like 15 minutes, there's a benefit there within that cycle. I understand the convenience gets lowered, but the idea that you could, like, take a fucking break has advantages. Then again, if you've got a flaming hot shoebox on your face, you might be grateful for a short battery life. They are really coming at the Vision Pro. They are really coming at the Vision Pro. Wu is part of the Meta team working on Silicon Smarts to make an AR system called Aria. That's as little like a hot shoebox as they can make it. A big part of the solution, 3D chip integration technology. At ISSCC, Meta detailed how the company's prototype AR processor uses 3D to do more in the same area with the same amount or less energy. Prototype chip is 2 ICs of equal size, 4.1 by 3.7 millimeters. They are bonded together in a process called face-to-face, wafer-to-wafer hybrid bonding. Woo! Who up with that face-to-face, wafer-to-wafer hybrid bonding? As the name implies, it involves flipping two fully processed wafers so they're facing each other and bonding them so their interconnects link together directly. The TSMC technology. What up, T1? Good morning, Nemesis. Is he Wally in our future? Maybe. I'm more interested in AR than VR. I don't need both at the same time, like reading glasses or nearsighted glasses. Yeah, I'm definitely in the category of, like, I see AR as like a daily use kind of thing, and again, VR is entertainment, right? VR is, there might be some work aspects, but they're going to be very specific and not generally adopted, right? VR is for entertainment. You play video games in VR. Um, maybe you interact with people in other spaces, that kind of thing. But like generally speaking, AR is the way to go for work, um, because it doesn't limit the other stuff that you have going on. Nobody wants to use VR to go to a simulated office. That sounds exactly like hell. 3D stacking meant the team could increase the chip's computing power. Good morning, Dame Karen. Letting it, or good evening for you. Letting it handle bigger tasks without adding to its size. The chip's machine learning unit has 4 compute cores on the bottom die and 1 megabyte of local memory, but the top die adds another 3 megabytes accessible through the thing. There's technical. In addition to machine learning, the chip can do image processing tasks. 3D made a big difference here again. While the 2D version was limited to compressed images, the 3D chip can do full HD using the same amount of energy. So yeah, again, like each thing in its place. Each thing in its place. Where are we? Oh, we're still up here. So, let's talk about it. Twitch is increasing channel subscription prices for the first time. Some tiers will soon be more expensive in the UK, Canada, Australia, and Turkey. Amazon has been looking to bolster Twitch's bottom line for a while after laying off around 500 workers and reducing how much streamers make from Prime subscriptions. Thanks. The streaming service is increasing the price of its subscriptions for the first time. Twitch says it's updating prices in several countries to help streamer revenue keep pace with rising costs and reflect local currency fluctuations. The first markets to feel the impact of those changes are the UK, Canada, Australia, and Turkey. As of March 28th, Tier 1 subscription to gift subs will be more expensive in UK, Canada, Australia. Base gift sub is going from £5 to £6 in the UK, 7 to 8 in Canadian dollars, and 8 to 9 in Australian dollars. Whew. Tier 1 and 2 will stay the same. In Turkey, Twitch is significantly increasing the price of all three tiers. For instance, a Tier 1 sub will soon cost 43.9 lira, $1.42, as opposed to 9.9 lira, 32 cents. The value of the Turkish lira has plummeted over the past 15 years. These price changes only apply to subscriptions bought on the web. Twitch says it will update prices on its mobile apps in the coming months. It's currently more expensive to buy a sub on the Twitch iOS app, also the Android app. It's an additional $1. The service also expects to update pricing in other countries later this year. On the plus side, if there is such a thing, streamers will have the same revenue share, so they'll earn more from subscriptions in the UK, Canada, Australia, and Turkey. Twitch recently announced changes to streamer payouts from Prime subscriptions. They'll soon earn a generally lower fixed amount for each Prime sub, dispensing on the subscriber's location. Dispensing? Depending? I don't know. Could be a use case of the word that I'm not familiar with. Meanwhile, it'll soon be easier for smaller streamers to qualify for the Partner Plus program and to benefit from a better subscription revenue split. All right, so here's my take. The Partner Plus program requires you to get, I believe the minimum is 100 subs, and that does not include gift subs. By way of comparison, around half of my subs are gift subs, and around half of my subs are that people sub themselves. And what are we at? We're currently at 55, right? So about half of that is like that. The idea that people, generally speaking, are going to pay more for subs, I just don't know, right? Like, how much do you like watching a particular streamer? And I feel like this goes hand in hand with them pushing so hard for these ad breaks, right? Like, they want you to run about 3 minutes of ads per hour. The difference between a regular sub and a gift sub from the point of view of Twitch, people who sub to a channel tend to do it for longer periods of time, right? If I'm willing to pay my money to watch this without commercial interruptions, I'm more likely to do that next month. Where a gift sub is like a free trial. That person who got the gift sub may or may not continue their sub then in the next month. You know what I mean? I want to take a look at something real quick, and I don't know how. I don't want to get banned for showing you something I shouldn't ought to show you. So I'm just going to look at it. Monetization. Ads. So this is an insane aspect. So if you run 3 minutes of ad per hour on your stream, you get 55% ad revenue. 3 minutes per hour in the world of advertising on stuff you watch is not terrible. However, it is, depending on the size of your stream, like, can actually chase people away. And the amount of money that you actually get when you're a small streamer, and by small streamer, I mean my size, right? Like in the generally 2-digit range. Very rarely do I get up into the 3-digit range at all. But even for someone who gets a regular 3-digit range, like James from the internet, talked about, like last month they got $30 in ad revenue, right? It's not a lot. Not a lot. The fact that the slider is capable of cranking all the way up to 22.5 minutes per hour, 1 3-minute ad break every 8 minutes. It's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. But I mean, if you got it like that, I suppose someone like Kai Cenat, with what amounts to a very, whatever you feel about Kai's content, they have a very loyal community or fan base, however you want to put that, right? Well, that's the thing. It's supposed to be worse than commercial TV. If you think about it from that aspect, if I'm getting pounded, if I really want to watch this streamer, right? I really want to watch this stream, and I'm getting absolutely murdered with 1 3-minute ad break every 8 minutes. Now I'm definitely more inclined to pay that $5, $4.99 or free with a Twitch Prime. Or maybe you could be gifted a sub by one of our beautiful community members. Only 5 more subs to go to hit the sub goal. I did it. I sneaked it in, Reed. But you're more likely to pay that, that $5 in order to, continue to watch. And then people are creatures of habit. So if I have incorporated a particular stream into my daily routine, then I might be more inclined to pay the $6, $7, $8, whatever it goes to. I'll find a way to do that so that I don't deal with the 3 minutes of ads every 8 minutes. I'm at 4.5 minutes per hour, getting up to 3 average viewers. Thought I was going to get my first monthly payout this month, but I missed it by under $5. Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing. I only run the pre-rolls. I'm not gonna. I don't care. I don't care, which is why I will never be a Twitch golden boy. And like that. Yeah, yeah, exactly, bipedal meatbag. There used to be a show, I'm not sure if it's still on in Canada, called This Hour Has 22 Minutes. And that was part of the joke. Okay. Where were we? Twitch. Do some more NASA. NASA's New Horizon discovers a large surprise in the Kuiper Belt. There may be a lot more than we thought to the belt of icy debris that circles the outer solar system. Data from the New Horizons probe, as it sails serenely through the Kuiper Belt, hints at unexpected levels of particles where dust ought to be thinning out, suggesting the donut-shaped field extends significantly farther from the sun than previous estimates suggest. Most recent in a growing body of evidence that our understanding of the outer solar system is lacking, but could help us better understand our planetary system and others out there in the wider galaxy. It is dusty. New Horizons is making the first direct measurements of interplanetary dust far beyond Neptune and Pluto, so every observation could lead to a discovery. The idea that we might have detected an extended Kuiper belt with a whole new population of objects colliding and producing more dust offers another clue in solving the mysteries of the solar system's most distant regions. The Kuiper Belt was already thought to be pretty huge. It starts at the orbit of Neptune, some 30 astronomical units from the Sun. And if you don't know, an astronomical unit is the distance from the Sun to the Earth. It's 1 AU. So this is 30 AUs out from the Sun. It extends outward for an unknown distance. However, the inner main region was thought to peter out at about 50 AU. Here's a little picture. Good morning, Fuzzy Thunder. The magic dust Santa gives to his reindeer. That could be where they get that from, yes. Got a Twitter thing in here. What was I doing? Oh, Microsoft, we're going to shift back to some AI here. Microsoft presents Long Rope, extending LLM context windows beyond 2 million tokens. So, prior to this year, discussion around context windows was in the the 100,000 the hundreds of thousands range. Like ChatGPT maxed out at 125,000, so on and so on and so on and so on. And now Gemini dropped it is called Long Rope. I only work here. Gemini is talking up to 10 million. Who is the one? Magic is talking 3.5, and Long Rope here, 2 million tokens. So like an exponential increase. And this may have been something that was available, but like the with Gemini coming out and saying it, with Google saying it, is what caused them to um, start releasing these things. Okay, so this is lowers better on this. Um, and it shows you like Mistral 7B context window of about 16K. Like it begins to suffer and then it goes off the rails. Um, these are your llamas here. There's a llama. I'm sorry. This is a Mistral. This is a Mistral. Long rope with Mistral and long rope with llama both keep it in the low range. So this is they're getting better at this with their fine-tuned models. I am again, it's really a matter of perceiving the exponential growth that's happening. Trying to find out what long rope stands for because it's doing the thing where there's like big letters and little letters. Like it's probably RPE and then long is like long chain and things like that. Anywho, Jensen Wong, customer demand for NVIDIA chips is so far above supply that CEO Jensen Wong had to discuss how fairly the company decides who can buy them. We allocate fairly. We do the best we can to allocate fairly. Those are two different sentences, Jensen. And to avoid allocating unnecessarily. The NVIDIA boss was referring to how the company decides who gets first dibs on its graphics processors or GPUs. The hardware that powers artificial intelligence. Tech giants like Meta, Microsoft, you know all this. That's one group of customers. A long list of original equipment manufacturers and original design manufacturers are also clamoring for the GPUs, not to mention customers in industries like biology, healthcare, finance, AI development, and robotics. Having to choose between desperate customers might seem like a good problem to have. Yes, they made a whole bunch of money. Accelerated computing and generative AI have hit a tipping point. Demand is surging worldwide across companies, industries, and nations. Now, admittedly, I have unfollowed people on Twitter who were saying it, so they might still be saying it, but been a while since I heard the phrase that AI is just a fad. Um so yeah, but this is why like for whatever your however you feel about Sam Altman and his $7 trillion plan, um that's what's necessary, right? Like there is simply not enough capacity of production from beginning to end to satisfy the needs of what whether it's what people are trying to accomplish or the potential for use that we have. So I understand people feel ways and junk about Sam Altman, but he's not wrong in this regard. And then this is earning. When it comes to GPU supply, Huang said the issue is more complex than it might seem. While he commented the supply chain for providing NVIDIA with while he commended the supply chain for providing NVIDIA with necessary components like packaging, memory, and other parts, he underscored the substantial size of the GPUs themselves. People think the NVIDIA GPU is like a chip, but the NVIDIA Hopper GPU is 35,000 parts. It weighs 70 pounds. These things are really complicated. People call it an AI supercomputer for good reason. If you ever look in the back of the data center, the cabling system is mind boggling. It's the most dense, complex cabling system for networking the world has ever seen. Yeah, we need more chips. We need more chips. From Nature. Super speedy sequencing puts genomic diagnosis in the fast lane. Streamlined workflows for DNA and RNA sequencing are helping clinicians to deliver prompt, targeted care for people in days or even hours. Sometimes good news arrives too late. About a decade ago, clinical geneticist Zornitza Stark and her colleagues at the Murdoch Children's Research Institute in Melbourne, Australia, set out to learn how genome sequencing might improve the care of young children with suspected hereditary disorders. The researchers sequenced protein coding regions in the genomes of 80 infants, looking for genetic changes to explain their conditions. For one 9-month-old boy with severe neurological symptoms, Stark's team honed in on a mutation that resulted in a crucial vitamin B1 deficiency, which could be readily treated with supplements for just under 150 Australian dollars per year. Unfortunately, it took 6 months from when the sample was taken to get the answer. Treatment with vitamin B1 safeguarded the boy's survival, but his condition had deteriorated in that time, leaving him with a lifelong disability. Even with a 2-3 week turnaround time, that's clearly still not fast enough to intervene with a lot of these conditions. I was very keen to make it even faster. Today, the method is indeed much faster. Stark and others around the world have repeatedly demonstrated the feasibility and clinical benefit of rapid sequencing and interpretation pipelines for delivering timely, personalized interventions for previously enigmatic disorders. These workflows can generally deliver diagnoses in less than a week, but the record for a gene sequencing derived diagnosis held by genomics researcher Euan Ashley at Stanford and his colleagues is just over 7 hours. When an ultra rapid response is needed in oncology, workflows are even helping clinicians to classify tumors and plan treatments in under an hour. God damn. Yeah, right here. Sequencing based diagnostics can be a hard sell to some clinicians, particularly those inclined to take a conservative approach. Very, very nicely put. Very. And until a decade or so ago, genome analysis was slow, expensive, and unlikely to deliver actionable results. But the skeptics are coming around. When I talk to clinical collaborators, they always start with, we don't need it. Homie, you fucking need it. says Jeroen de Ritter, who developed a sequencing-based approach for guiding brain tumor care within 90 minutes of biopsy collection. But then when you enable it and you make it possible, suddenly they start to see the opportunities that they previously couldn't see. Every 18 months or so, we have a technological revolution, not evolution, revolution. We're in the middle of that right now. You're not wrong, Dame Karen. It's very important to tread the ethical waters properly. Speaking of chips, plasma scientists develop computer programs that could reduce the cost of chips and stimulate manufacturing. Fashioned from the same element found in sand. Oh, we're just talking about friggin' silicon. Now, scientists at the DOE PPPL are developing computer simulation codes that will outperform current simulation techniques and aid the production of microchips using plasma, the electrically charged state of matter also used in fusion research. Yeah. These codes could help increase the efficiency of the manufacturing process and potentially stimulate the renaissance of chip industry in the United States. Because devices with microchips are essential to our daily lives, how and where they are made is a matter of national security. Robust and reliable simulation tools that can accurately predict plasma behavior and shorten the manufacturing and design cycle of silicon chips could help the U.S. regain a leadership role in this field and maintain it for decades. Companies would like to use simulations to improve their processes, but they typically are computationally expensive. We are doing our best to counter this trend. Physicists usually want simulations to reproduce plasma as accurately as possible, generating virtual pictures that reveal the intricacies of plasma behavior with very fine details. That process requires algorithms, programs following a set of rules that simulate plasma in very short time increments and in small volumes of space. Good morning, Lenny. I mean, I'm with you, Dame Karen. The current meta indicates what they are saying, but we need to move beyond that current meta. Could save them both time and money. That means with the same amount of computational resources, you can create more simulations. More simulations not only allow you to find ways to improve manufacturing, but also to learn more physics in general. We can make more discoveries using our limited resources, which I am always a fan of. How we doing? More on chips. Taiwan chip firms flock to Japan as China decoupling accelerates. Japan's efforts to rebuild its semiconductor industry are getting a shot in the arm as more and more.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get myself a 1967 Cadillac Eldorado convertible. Hot pink with a whale skin hubcaps and all leather
Lenny.
big round baby seal eyes for headlights. Yeah. And I'm going to ride around in that baby at 115
coming
miles per hour,
through with the 5-pack,
McDonald's in the old fashioned
making my
styrofoam container.
day.
When I'm done sucking down
True
those
homie
service.
For
under
real?
the
Look at
red,
that
white, blue,
founder's
the American
badge.
flag. Then I'm going to toss the styrofoam containers wrath aside and write a goddamn thing.
Look at that
anybody can
founder's
do about it.
badge.
You know why? Because we got the bombs. That's why. 2 words: nuclear fucking weapons. Okay.
Oh, I just realized the alert's running and I can't hear it.
Love will tear us apart again. Love will tear us apart again.
Lenny's a true homie for real. And that, if nothing else, my man. Absolutely, you should follow Lenny. It's complicated, Dave Karen. Old Lobster created it with the Globus AI, and I wanted to use it somewhere, and it seemed like the most appropriate place, though. Like, this stream is constantly evolving and will probably change again in the future to something new. Like, I tend to put in a placeholder that works and is fun. And then over time, like, find the thing that I really like. And then once I find the thing that I like, then that remains, and then I move on to the other stuff. Into Playboy Cardi. Yeah. So right now, like, my primary concern is getting my audio straight, so that, like, this thing right here, I don't even know what this is responding to. Obviously, the two little guys, like this one right here, those are responding to my voice. I'm not sure what this is responding to. It should be responding to my voice once I get that set up, where I'll have this cool thing that will react to the words coming out of my mouth. Then that'll be super cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Milk Drop being an asset. All right. Again, thank you, Lenny. I appreciate you. We hit the sub goal. I can't do it without y'all, and y'all make it easy sometimes. Yeah, Taiwan folks are going to Japan to build. What time we got? 9:13. We're expecting Japan semiconductor market growth. We're continuously capitalizing on Japan ASIC opportunities and already engaging in several good projects. At least 9 Taiwanese chip firms have set up shop or expanded operations in Japan over the past 2 years. So, like, this is another. The Japanese are taking advantage of the same space that, in the competitive area, the U.S. CHIPS Act is supposed to be, but without the uncertainty. That's the thing about the United States, is currently the United States has a great deal of uncertainty around it. And that's a problem for people who want to build their business. They want to develop their chip manufacturing. They want to do that stuff. They don't want to turn around and hear one of the 2 presidential candidates talking about how AI is scary. I don't want to cover this article. So we talked yesterday about Grok, right? Not Grok as in from X or Twitter, but Grok as in with a Q. The problem with the United States is that its actions do not always align with its stated goals, and it gets worse over time, right? It becomes more difficult to align your actions with your stated goals the longer the amount of time you spend in that state, because your goals become farther from your current state of being based on your actions. And there's so much internal variation and like how people go about interacting with these, these different things. Like the NTSC, right? Illinois is trying to capture the NTSC so that Illinois can be like a chip hub, um, and a development hub in the United States, a Midwest Silicon Valley, if you will, and that's fine, right? But is that the best place to put it? I would actually say probably, because it's right next to the Great Lakes. Um, so there's advantages there. Silicon Valley suffers from a few different issues related to its location. However, it's also on a coast, right? So if they get new stuff in, it can be brought in right from the coast like that, as opposed to like someplace like Montana, which is completely landlocked in that way. But then now it's like you're competing with another state, and so you offer tax incentives, and tax incentives are, we're not going to charge you taxes on your property for X number of years so that you build that here. And then now, um, the expectation is you're going to create not only jobs within your chip fab, but also the ancillary positions that surround that. Um, and it just, there are issues with distribution. You know what I mean? All right. Grok's AI chip turbocharges LLMs and generates text in real time, near real time. Excuse me. Compared to humans, language models can or can generate text incredibly fast, but for some, like startup Grok, that is not fast enough. To achieve even faster performance, Grok has developed specialized hardware, language processing units. These LPUs are specially designed to run language models and offer speeds of up to 500 tokens per second. In comparison, the relatively fast LLMs Gemini Pro and GPT 3.5 manage between 30 and 50 tokens per second, depending on load, prompt, context, and delivery. Take care, Lenny. I'm sure I will see you around somewhere. The first Grok chip in the LPU system category uses tensor streaming architecture that Grok says is designed for performance. And it's really like a simplified design. If it works, big if true, right? Big if true. One moment. One moment. Um, but like, it it's really this simple. Like, there's nothing. What was your groundbreaking development? Oh, we just made it simple. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. They're also more energy efficient. They reduce the effort required to manage multiple threads and avoid underutilization of cores, allowing more computations to be performed per watt. Yeah, and you can use them right now. I if it wasn't for all the janky weird stuff going on, like this is literally the best time to be alive. Quantum enhanced generative AI generates viable cancer drug candidates. Researchers say they demonstrated the first instant of a generative model running on quantum hardware, outperforming state of the art classical models in generating viable cancer drug candidate. Research team Zapata Computing, In Silico Medicine, the University of Toronto, and St. Jude's. Shout out St. Jude's. Um, Scientists using generative AI to develop novel KRAS inhibitors, a critical focus in cancer therapy, historically deemed undruggable, be due to undruggable due to its intrinsic biochemical properties. Drug discovery is going to be huge for AI, not to mention there's a lot of ethical hoops to jump through because it's data processing. Exactly. Right, running all this stuff in simulation is yeah, buddy. Um, Promising future of hybrid quantum generative AI for drug discovery using today's quantum devices. Um, Generative models running on classical hardware, quantum hardware, specifically a 16 qubit IBM device, and simulated quantum hardware generated 1 million drug candidates each, which were then filtered algorithmically and by humans. The resulting 15 molecules were then synthesized and tested through cell based assays. The two molecules generated by the quantum enhanced generative model were distinct from existing KRAS inhibitors and showed a superior binding affinity over the molecules generated by purely classical models. Project is an exciting demonstration of how quantum and classical computing can complement each other to deliver end-to-end solution. Collaboration is also a great the collaboration is also a great example how the startup and university ecosystem can leverage each other's advantages to drive progress. We're looking forward to taking this research further to move the discovered molecules through the drug discovery pipeline, apply our methodology to other disease targets, and extend our quantum enhanced generative AI to other industrial use cases with complex design challenges. And the research is on archive and wait peer review. Researchers develop unhackable computer chip that works on light. Computations can be performed at light speed in this chip, which is ready for deployment for building AI models immediately. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania have developed a new computer chip that uses light instead of electricity. This could improve the training of artificial intelligence models by improving the speed of data transfer and more efficiently, reducing the amount of electricity consumed.
Humanity is building the exascale supercomputers today that can carry out a quintillion computations per second. While the scale of computation may have increased, computing technology is still working on the principles that were first used in the 1960s. Researchers have been working on developing computational systems based on quantum mechanics too. These computers are at least a few years from becoming widely available, if not more. Recent explosion of AI models and technology has resulted in a demand for computers that can process large sets of information. The inefficient computing systems, though, result in high consumption of energy. Mathematical computations using light. The team turned to light as it is the fastest means of transferring data known to humanity. However, using widely abundant silicon ensures the technology can be scaled quickly. Aim to design a chip that can perform vector matrix multiplications, common mathematical computations widely used in developing neural networks. Since it's silicon, the researchers could have reinvented the fabrication process completely. Instead, they reduced the height of the chip in specific regions to control how light propagates inside. Wider chip allows light to scatter through the chip. Still, by controlling the height variations, the research team ensured that the light inside the chip traveled only in a straight line. The researchers approach a commercial foundry to fabricate their SIPH chips. Since the foundry could only design chips at sizes currently existing in the market, the chip design had to be modified accordingly and is ready for deployment immediately. Said their chips could replace the the GPUs that companies use to train and classify their AI models. Perform computations faster with electricity consumption. Can also address data privacy concerns. Since the chip can perform multiple computations in parallel, no need to store the information in working memory while the computations are performed. No one can hack into non existing memory to access your information. Robots and AI are saving the American economy with a boom in productivity. The magic beanstalk beans that allow higher wages without inflation. Trying to keep up with customer demand, Batesville Tool and Die. Morning towards night. Began seeking 70 people to hire last year. Wasn't easy. Attracting factory workers to a community of 7,300 in the Indiana countryside was a tough sell, especially having to compete with big name manufacturers nearby like Honda and Cummins Engine. Job seekers were scarce. You could count on one hand how many people in the town were unemployed. It was just crazy. Batesville Tool and Die managed to fill just 40 of its vacancies. Enter the robots. The company invested in machines that could mimic human workers and vision systems which helped its robots see what they were doing. The Batesville experience and others like it have been replicated countlessly across the United States for the past couple of years. Chronic worker shortages have led many companies to invest in machines to do some of the work they can't find people to do. They've also been training the workers they do have to use advanced technology so they can produce more with less. The result has been an unexpected productivity boom, which helps explain a great economic mystery. How has the world's largest economy managed to remain so healthy with brisk growth and low unemployment despite brutally high interest rates? Brutally high, brutally high. The interest rates are brutally high. Brutally, what are they, like 0.5? What are these brutally high interest? Oh, nearly back to 2. Nearly back to 2. Brutally high. So brutally high. They are that are intended to tame inflation, but that typically create a recession. To economists, strong productivity growth provides an almost magical elixir. When companies roll out more efficient machines or technology, their workers can become more productive. They increase their output per hour. They didn't say healthiest. They said so healthy. They're like, what is it? Like the UK and Japan are currently in a recession. Um, and by recession it means negative growth, right? Recession sounds like one thing, but it simplified it's just negative growth, which makes sense. Um, the U.S. should be in a recession and doesn't appear to be, right? Now you're seeing they're monkeying with the egg prices again. I'm getting agitated. And prices are still high in some domains. But the U.S. is not in a recession. And a lot of the conventional wisdom, and again, I am not an economist. You should go follow Unlearned Economics. They have a great YouTube and they stream on Twitch. Unlearning Economics. But the U.S. should be in a recession and it's not. And so right now, economists are scrambling to figure out why and explain it. Um, it's whether or not, like, how does that pan out for the rest of us? The rest of people in the United States. Like, do we get to see the benefits of that? Joe Versailles, chief economist at RSM, the last time we saw anything like this was in the late 1990s. That was when a productivity surge and early payoff from the sudden embrace of laptops, cell phones, and the internet helped allow the Federal Reserve to keep borrowing rates low because inflation remained under control even as the economy and job market sizzled. This time, the Fed's aggressive streak of rate hikes, 11 of them starting in March 2022, managed to help cool inflation from a 4-decade high of 9.1% to 3.1% while causing little economic hardship. I would have said that it's not possible, said Sal Gutierrez, but that's exactly what happened. A year ago, nearly every economist was warning that a recession was all but inevitable. Fed Chair Jerome Powell himself warned in 2022 that beating inflation would inflict some pain in the form of widespread layoffs and higher unemployment. By last month, Powell was sounding a different note. With unemployment barely above half-century low, the Fed chair told reporters we've had a very strong labor market and we've had inflation coming down. He did caution that the central bank wants to see further progress in slowing inflation, yet the Fed is so optimistic that inflation is heading towards its 2% goal that hasn't raised rates since July and is expected to cut rates multiple times this year from their brutal levels. Yeah. And finally, Global Foundries. It's a name that has come up and I haven't really talked about in the chip fab space. Global Foundries CHIPS Act grant is a great first step. The Biden administration CHIPS Act will be giving chip designer Global Foundries a $1.5 billion grant to promote stateside semiconductor production. Johnson states that this grant has been long awaited, stating for people in the chip industry, this is a finally, and express optimism around meeting increased demands. O'Donnell comments, it's a great first step, but logistics like building out the factory, hiring, and other various factors could take time to finalize. So much of it is moving away from Silicon Valley to the rest of the country. Oh, and there's a video, which we're not going to watch. I can believe it. I don't like it, but I can believe it. Oh, it's this video. Okay. But I think that's going to be a wrap. I kind of had to throw myself into stream this morning, and I have to attend to the rest of my day. Yeah, I'm not a fan, Karen. I'm really not. Unfortunately, this is what we're saddled with. Okay, homie's still up. We're going Levelhead. Levelhead is supposed to be helping me out with my my audio today. It might actually be done on their stream. It will depend on like when we get around to doing that and how they feel at that point in time. I will be back tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. with more AI news, and then tomorrow is also Friday, so there will be the regular video show, and also Friday is movie night in the Discord. Last week I talked about starting the Terminator series. I'm actually thinking of pushing that off until next week, and this week doing this Colossus the Forbin project. I was able to find the video. It's not on any of the streaming services, but I found it on Vimeo. And I've heard it talked about. I've never seen it. It's an old 60s joint. And I'm thinking that we're going to watch that, right? So that sounds great. Make sure you're in the Discord. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot. Chuggy loves you. So do I. Be great.